Hello and welcome to episode number 35 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, crochet, spinning, whatever craft I feel like. Usually knitting is the majority of the projects that I work on. Thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot that you take some time to check out this podcast or to come back to it weekly. It's really great. I will say right on top of this episode, I have this feeling that I forgot something important, which has to do with setting up for the podcast. I'm not really sure, but maybe you will see that something is completely off, and I might see it too when I'm editing, but for now I just have this weird feeling that something is wrong, but I can't figure out what it is. So so I decided to start podcasting anyway. Let's start with what I'm wearing, and I'm still wearing the same, or still, again, wearing the cardigan that I finished last week. It's the Dusala by Osa Tricosa, and I made it out of hand-spun yarn. But on top of that, I am wearing a shawl, and this is the Color Affection shawl by Vera Valimaki, and it's a shawl that I knit like 2 years ago. I think 2.5 years ago, and it's out of Anel Malmedy. I don't know how this yarn is called, or well, I do know I don't know how to pronounce the name of this yarn. Let's put it that way. So, it's a worsted weight shawl, and it's strapping and short row in there. And it is, I think, the first shawl actually that I knit for myself. And I love this one. This one and another one are the only two ones that I really, really wear a lot. And most of the other ones are kind of like decorations for the cabinet in which I store my scarves, I guess. Not 100% true, but I use the other ones a little bit as well. But this one is really one that I gravitate towards, and I can wear it like all winter. So maybe I need to make another one of these so that I can alternate between two. But I really like this light blue tealy color, and it's just nice. And I made some matching hat and mittens with it, and those mittens are also the only pair of mittens that I really gravitate towards, and they go so well with the scarf that I usually wear them in a combination when I go outside. So yeah, even though it's not something that I knit in any recent time, I thought it was worthwhile sharing that. So let's get into what I've been up to this week, crafting wise. Last week I was working on a project that were my gaming gloves for my boyfriend, and they are finished now. Look at that. But they have changed quite significantly since last week, because last week I was trying to improvise a pattern for it, and it all just wouldn't work out, and there was something in a pattern that I really didn't like, and I ripped back several times and then tried to knit it again, and it just wouldn't turn out quite how I wanted it to. So instead I decided to use a pattern for these fingerless mittens, and I used a pattern by Judith Lindvik. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I'm not really sure about that, but this is a book that she and some others wrote, and it's Den Store Boeker. It's a book entirely in Norwegian, so the price is also in Norwegian crowns. I did not like spend 150 euros or dollars on a book. And from this book I made the Tallulah's mittens. So I will just cover the chart on the other page so you can't really see it, but here is what the mittens are supposed to look like. Of course I knit them in different colors and I made some modifications. So I put in the cuff that I originally wanted to make, although even this one is different than last week's, because last week I started with 64 stitches in circumference, and I think this pattern called for 54, which I also didn't do because I did 56 I believe, and then increased for the gusset, and like in the pattern it increases for a gusset to, you know, for the thumb of a mitten, and I just increased a little bit less, and yeah, and then from there started working a pattern, and then at the end I improvised a little bit on the last few rows because yeah, I wanted to cut the pattern short and make them fingerless mitts, so I did. And I know there's a few mistakes here and there, but I think they turn out okay and that my boyfriend will like them. I don't know actually what he thinks of them because he hasn't seen them yet, because my boyfriend is on holiday and I'm here alone. I don't know, it's not that bad. I mean, being at home alone for a week is not the end of the world, but guys, I miss him. So yeah, so I hope he's going to enjoy the little present that I've made for him, mostly while he was away. Yeah, so here they are, and I knit on them a lot in the train actually, which I was quite surprised by how well that went, because yeah, the pattern on it is quite intricate. I believe I only knit on the second one on the train, so I already had the first one as an example with me, and then had to knit on the second one. And you guys, if you're knitting on a train, there's gonna be people watching you. But if you're knitting color work at a train, there's people like staring at you like, what on earth is this person doing? Like, I don't know the crazy look in their eyes, but they are like completely intrigued and they just keep on staring at what you're doing for like half an hour without stop. Crazy. They could also ask, you know, but I typically don't start conversations if they don't say anything first, so yeah. Anyway, so finished pair of fingerless mittens, and I must say the weather has changed this week. So until last week we had like the weather around 70 degrees Fahrenheit or higher temperatures and pretty much sunny, and this week the temperatures have dropped quite significantly. I think we're around 50 degrees, no, probably a little around above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or like 10 to 12-ish degrees Celsius, and yeah, mittens are on my mind, you guys, because it's finally fall and it's raining and it's weird weather. And about the scarf or the shawl that I'm wearing, I just don't know how to put shawls around my shoulders to make them stay on my shoulders and to keep them looking nice and neat. So yeah, this is just a way that keeps me warm, and I feel a little cold today, so there you go. You're just gonna have to deal with this situation. So, finished pair of mittens, and there's another project that I've been working on since last week, and it is the Sophie's blanket, which is a crochet project. And I'm basically using a lot of my scrap yarns that I've used for knitting socks, except one which I've used for knitting a shawl. It's the bright one here in the corners. Yeah, and I put in a bit of my hand-dyed yarn. Is the edge here. That one is out of my own hand-dyed yarn, and the last round that I did so far is from the Sockyarn, of which I just finished socks last week, I believe, for my boyfriend. So yeah, I'm really happy that it's still growing, but I think I've like run out of yarn that I haven't put in the blanket yet. So I'm not sure whether I should start repeating the yarns or produce more leftover bits and use them instead. I don't know. We will see. I'll think of something. I probably won't wait for like another 100 different types of scrap yarn to finish the blanket, because then it's just never gonna get finished. And you know, a blanket would be very nice to have on the couch, and especially now that the weather is getting cooler, I kind of need more blankets. It's not like I already have like a million blankets on the couch. Well, not a million, of course, but I do have a few. Not necessarily handmade. So I only have one handmade finished blanket that I've kept for myself, and that one is a little bit heavy for a lot of situations. It's also like 2 by 2 meters, or well, more than 2 by 2 yards. So it's quite big, quite heavy. I don't use it a lot for on the couch. I typically use it for on the bed. So yeah. Anyway, so I made some progress on this one, but not a lot. Do still enjoy it though, so that's good. And then there is another project that's gonna look remarkably similar to last week, and that is a skirt by Tilly and the Buttons, and it's a Delphine skirt, and yes, it looks, well, almost exactly the same as the skirt I'm actually currently wearing, so I can't hold them together, but yes, it is the same pattern in the same fabric, and I don't care. You know, if you have a pattern that you like and you know that you love wearing, then why not make 2 or 3 or 10 or a gazillion of them? You know, if it's nice and you wear it, then it's useful, then you can have more of them. So this one is actually a little bit different, and the differences, I will just point out this the differences on this one. I used a different contrast fabric for the inside of the pockets. So the other one had some turquoise, light blue, well, all one color. How do you call it? A solid color, maybe. And this one obviously has the seahorse print. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. Another alteration that I did on this one was putting in the belt loops while seaming it. So I don't know how well you will be able to see this, but it's like in between the layer of fabrics. That's where the belt loop is coming from. And there's this hair that's annoying me. I feel like I'm losing hairs like crazy. Also, I put it slightly to the back of the side seam to avoid having to sew through a lot of layers at the same time. But because I put the belt loop in the side seam, I had to top stitch over the belt loop, at least on the top side. On the bottom side, well, you attach the bottom side of the thing first. The thing, yes, perfect words. And you attach the bottom side of the waistband. That's what this bit of the skirt is called. To the dress first. So that's where the belt loop came out originally, and I could still like top stitch underneath it because this bit wasn't attached yet. So then I attached the top bit and folded it over, but then it became quite difficult to top stitch over it. Yeah, so it doesn't look as nice and neat on the inside, because whenever the fabric gets too thick, my sewing machine has some difficulty putting it to the right tension, and then I get all these messy loops on the inside. And well, I just decided to keep it that way because I thought I can try this a million times, but it's probably not gonna get any better. So I know that you can avoid this kind of mess by changing the tension of the like the upper thread of your sewing machine, but it was already on a maximum position, and I know that it's worse if I put it on a lower setting. I don't even know if that means more or less tension actually, but you know, I thought it's just not gonna get any better than this. So it's on the inside of my skirt. Who's gonna look there? And hopefully it won't unravel at some point, and otherwise I can always just, you know, fasten it somehow in another way. And also I did something different when attaching the zipper. I don't know exactly what the difference was actually, but I think I used I kind of tried to install the previous zipper as if it was an invisible zip, but it wasn't an invisible zip, and that didn't work out like entirely as planned. So I just installed this zipper as a normal zipper, and somehow this worked out a little bit better, although I kept seeming too close to the zipper, so it actually goes quite heavy, but it's okay now. You can really notice, like when I try to zip this one, it kind of gets stuck a little bit here, and the same thing happens when I try to close it. It just gets stuck a little bit here, not entirely stuck, but it takes a little bit more force to get it past this point. Which makes sense because, again, here there's a lot of layers of fabric that are on top of each other, and it's a bit bulkier there. But it's okay, it works. So I can just wear this skirt when the other one is in the laundry, or the other way around, and if they are both in the laundry at some point, then I can just wear one of the other skirts that I made previously. But these ones have the belt loops and very nice pockets that just keep their position so nicely, because the Delphine skirt that I made before, it has a pocket in the side seam, which is a suggested pattern hack from the pattern itself, but it doesn't work as nicely, I think. But these pockets, they just stay in position, because where are they gonna go? Like nowhere. And in the side seam they just tend to stay open a bit, which I don't think is as nice. But they work. So but I think this just works better. But it's a little bit more involved to make it, and the Delphine skirt is actually one of the easiest pattern sets in the book. Love it. First stitch by Tilly and the Buttons. So I guess that's why there are not that difficult pockets in the pattern. Then there's another project that I've been sewing on, and it's not quite finished yet, and it looks a little silly, and I don't think it turned out quite how I'd like, but here it is, and it's very tiny, and yes, it's out of the same fabric because I had some leftovers. But this is supposed to become a kind of needle cozy, so I need to make the vertical lines here to divide this bit into pockets so that I can store my needles of different sizes in different slots of this pocket. And now this may not look as interesting, but I just purchased a lot of new needles from Chowgu at this not a fiber event, and I don't have anything to properly store them in, and I can just throw them all in like a bag, but that's not really how I want to store them. So my plan is to like make multiple layers of heights, because I have 5-inch high sharp needles and 4-inch Chowgu needle tips and 3-inch and 2-inch now. So I want to make like multiple layers, like 1 inch below each other, so that I can have all the slots for the different needles and the different sizes and keep them together in a nice and tiny packaging. And then probably also make something on the back side to store all the cables in, or at least some of them. So because I do have a lot of cables now with all the interchangeable needle tips, they came with a lot of cables. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that many cables, but who knows? Maybe in the future I will need them. So, I think there's only one more project that I've been working on this week, and yeah, it's a project that has been on this podcast before, a lot of times actually, and it is my Sockyarn blanket. And for those of you who don't know, I have been working on a Sockyarn blanket. Here it is. It's almost, well, I think it's halfway done, more than halfway done. So yeah, here is the kind of idea of the blanket. Basically, I knit a border which consists of these type of squares. So this is kind of a log cabin square. Once I've got these type of squares completed, I crochet them together and thus make a border. Like you can see here, there's 2 of those squares kind of seamed together with a crochet edge. And once I have the border complete, I fill them up with these cozy memory type squares or mitered squares, whatever you may call them. And yes, I know that most people do knit this type of blanket with the tiny squares out of scrap yarn. I didn't have enough scrap yarn at the time to knit a full blanket with. Also the idea of not having enough yarn to complete a project with, even though it's been on the needles for over a year. So I don't know why I worried so much about that, because I've been knitting a ton of different projects in the meantime. But yeah, now that the weather is turning colder again, also for this blanket I want to get it finished sooner rather than later. So yeah, and I've been working on it again, and of course I didn't show you the bit that I'm actually working on, but the project actually lives in this bag, but not the completed blanket part, or all the squares that I've already finished, because then it just wouldn't fit in this bag. This is a project bag that I've made myself. It's a drawstring bag which has still has shoelaces in it. I have bought some better string to put in there, but I didn't, and I have some enamel pins on there. And basically I have all the colors that I knit the blanket with in here, and I have a lot more of those colors, or some more of those colors in the shoebox behind me there. But this is the square that I've been working on, and I think the last time I've shown it I was already working on this square. I did not make that much progress, but I'm working on it again, so there's progress, so there is a chance that I might finish it at some point in the future. You guys, these type of blankets, they just take a long time. I don't know, but who decided that it was a good idea to knit like a 2x2 meter blanket on 2mm needles with sock yarn? yeah, it's this crazy person here. Anyway, I do still love it, and it's a good, easy knit for when you're out and about, or, well, out and about with a knit group. Like, you need to go somewhere where you have some serious time to work on it, otherwise I can't be bothered to bring, well, this full of a project bag. I could bring it with me while commuting to work, but like my entire bag would be filled just with my knitting, and I also need to bring like lunch and some other stuff for work. So yeah, I prefer to travel light for that one. But if I travel somewhere by car, then this is definitely an option. And this week I have been traveling by car, so that's part of the reason that I did not get as much knitting done as I had hoped. And also my sister came over to stay with me. She was supposed to stay with me from Wednesday to Saturday, which is today, but the week went a bit weird, and she got an offer for a job on Tuesday, like a one-day job as well in Eindhoven, which is where I live. So she came over on Monday already, but then on Wednesday she got sick and went home again while I was at work. So it was a little bit weird because she was gonna stay and then suddenly she was gone, and I had like all her stuff, including the keys to her home, because she wasn't at my place when she got that ill that she needed to go home again. So yeah, the week has been a little bit all over the place. I didn't feel comfortable with her not having the keys to her own home. Also, she had the spare key to my home, and it was a little bit crazy. So I spent most of my Friday evening traveling to my sister to bring back her stuff and collect my spare key to my home. And because my boyfriend is on holiday, his car is here, and I do have a driver's license, so I can drive his car, but I rarely ever do because I'd rather be knitting when I'm in a car, and it's not my car. So yeah, he drives to all kinds of places, but I prefer just being able to knit, so not driving, obviously, because I don't think it's possible, or if it's possible, safe to knit while you're driving. So yeah, I don't drive a car that much. But this week my boyfriend was away, so I could like test for one day to, you know, see what it's like to drive a car to work. So I left from work, and then I got stuck in terrible traffic jam, and it was raining, and I don't know. And then on the radio you hear like all these places where there's traffic jams, and even though I was in a traffic jam that caused like an hour's delay, it wasn't even mentioned because it was not like one of the top 5 longest delays possible in the Netherlands. And then I decided, I'm so glad that I always take the train to work, because yes, sometimes I may be complaining about being like 10 minutes late because the trains were a little bit delayed, or if I miss one train, which happens like maybe once a month, then I get like half an hour delay because I need to take the next train. But this was just serious craziness. Yeah. So I'm just so much happier now that I take the train every day to work. But I did spend some time behind the wheel this week. It's just really not my favorite thing to do. I don't know what's there to like about it and why people are so enthusiastic about it. I think the public transport system in the Netherlands is pretty good. Doesn't go for all the tiny places, but I live in the 5th largest city of the country. So I think public transport is arranged quite well here. And also the city where I work is not a tiny town, but I only need to travel slightly over a kilometer, but slightly less than a mile to work. So I can easily walk that far, but I do have a second bicycle there to, you know, cycle from the station to work, because sometimes I go swimming before work, and then I would need to walk quite a bit. Anyway, so you can gather, I guess, that I've had a bit of a crazy week and I felt a little bit sorry for myself, and I know that it's not a good reason to indulge in buying more yarn, but I went on Etsy and I saw a sock blank, and here it is. Look at all those gorgeous butterflies and flowers, and it just makes me so happy. And when I saw it, I just knew these are my colors. I like butterflies. Who doesn't? Except that, like, moths and butterflies are kind of related to each other, but they look quite pretty on the blanket, and these are my colors, and I'm absolutely certain that this will turn into a gorgeous pair of socks. I haven't actually checked. Is this symmetrical? I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm probably gonna have sister socks if I knit from this sock blank. I've never tried knitting from a sock blank before, so that's something that I really want to try. And in fact, I'm already that enthusiastic about it that when I went to my parents, I also picked up the knitting machine that my grandma used to have. It's a flat knitting machine, and I decided that if I like doing this, then I might dye up some more of the natural yarn that I have after I've knitted into sock blanks, and then dye some sock blanks maybe. Who knows? It seems like a fun thing to do. Although I haven't got a clue how it would work actually, but that's something to figure out, and I don't think there's any rules. I mean, there can't really be a wrong way to dye a sock blank, I guess, you know? But anyway, this one I found on Etsy, and it is from a store that I will pronounce as Shores, because but it's actually written as S7 Ors, but I think it's supposed to be pronounced as Shores. Shores is a Dutch name. I think it's similar to George, but it's a Dutch version, which can be both male and female. So it's from a Dutch company. So, and I thought it would be nice to support an indie maker from the Netherlands through Etsy. So I did, and that's also where I got the lovely card behind me from, because she really wrapped up the package nicely and then put it in an envelope that got here a little bit battered. And I was like, yeeks! I hope that my package is still okay in there, but it turned out that she had wrapped up everything, wrapped up and sealed everything very nicely inside the outer envelope. So, yeah, I didn't have to worry about a thing, but when the way that it looked from the outside at first, I was a little bit worried, but it just got to me in this great state. So I'm really happy with it. And she also included some stitch markers with the package, which was really nice. So I'm excited to try this. There's one more thing that I want to talk about this week, and that's a quick mention that on episode 33 I announced a 50 subscriber giveaway, for which I'm going to draw a prize next week, and I will be podcasting on the Friday. So if you want to have a chance to enter, please check out episode number 33 like before on Thursday. If you comment on Thursday, then you will be guaranteed to be taken into account for the giveaway on the Friday. If you enter on next week's Friday, then there is a chance that I've already recorded the podcast but not uploaded it yet. So, and at the same time, I'm also still hosting the More Than One Craft Along, which will come to an end at the last day of October. So that's pretty soon. And so on November 1, you have lost your chance of entering, I guess. So if you have any project that you are working on for which you have done more than one craft, and it doesn't matter what type of craft, so if you did sewing and knitting on one project, or if you've hand dyed yarn and worked with that, or maybe hand painted fabric and sewn something with that, just enter it on the thread in the Ravelry group for the more than one craft along, and you might be able to win a prize. And so far there's only one person apart from me who has shared a bit about the project that she's working on, so yeah, you can of course let her win, but you might also enter your projects if you have any. So but be sure to do that before November 1st. So yeah, that's all I had to share with you. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I hope to see you again next week. So bye!